Well, that's wonderful presentation Ibu Alina. And then Bapak Ibu, if you have question, so you can give directly to Ibu Alina. Oh, here we have one question from Ibu Laili. I will read. The question is that what if the students do not like being videotaped? And then what kind of performance can he or she do?
Okay, thank you for the question, Pulaili. Hello. What happened to your throat? Are you sick?
I don't know, but I just got sore throat.
Okay. I hope you get well soon, ya, Mbak Laili. All
Thank
right.
you.
All right, Bapak Ibu. Actually, this presentation is I just want to share my experience in doing my achievement assessment in my seventh grader, and I was inspired by my lecturer who has T actually in UST. She said that in online learning we cannot assess our student using only use a kind of multiple choices questions, because in my school especially, when we use a kind of Google form, multiple choices Google form, or maybe some test using multiple choices questions, the students can open Google Translate at home and they can Googling. You know, my students, when they are offline, I mean, when they meet me in my class, some students are not quite good in English, but when this online, they got very high score. It's very interesting, right? Okay. Even some student of mine, my students, got 100, got 97, 96 in mid semester from Kabupaten Bantul. That's well, I think, I don't know. Maybe they turn into a very smart student when online learning, right? so so in this condition, so I think we have to use a kind of authentic assessment to assess our students, and this is one of a process that I use to assess my student in seventh grade. And in my class, I usually use voice note to open my class. Because my school is in Piungan. Piungan is, around the area is bad connection in internet. Yeah, some of my students are from Delingo and Gunung Kidul and so on and so on. And I cannot use Google Classroom because many of my students don't have any laptop or computers at home. They only have handphone, and the data is only chat data. Do you know chat data? They only can use a WA, so they cannot open website. The game that said by the first presenter is very interesting, right? It's very interesting, but maybe in my class only 20 students can use it, because yeah, there are so many economic problems with them, and they only can maybe open WA and maybe just Google, just YouTube. That's only that, and they cannot download many application in their handphone. So there will be so many difficulties to use it. Okay, so I use the voice note and video recording to assess my students, especially in authentic assessment. So for some students, if they maybe shame, or maybe they don't have any, they don't like to record themselves, they can use voice note, Miss Lely. They can use voice note, and I usually open my class with voice note. So I greet my students with voice note, and they answer my greeting, recording their voice into the WA group, so I can listen their voice speaking English. That's very important. Okay, so they can train themselves speaking English. And other time, I ask them to record, to make a video, to make a simple, very simple video to describe something and something. Okay. And this is my experience to do in 7G in a class. I got 3 classes, and I I I take this kind of assessment for them, and it's quite successful. Only maybe 2 students got paired. Okay, I can show you the result if you want to, but it's not easy. Actually, it's not easy. You have to courage. You have to give your students a spirit. You have to give them a video example. You have to give them quiz. You have to give them any material, and yeah, but actually it's success. So that's all. Thank you. Is it answering your question, Miss Laili?
Thank you. With VN ya, Miss ya. No, VN.
Yes, which voice note? Yeah, the end. Yeah. Thank you, Bu Novi,
Yeah,
Noviana.
yeah. Here we still have one question actually from Sana, but yeah, please it's short, yeah. Yeah, how can Bu Susana, can you give the question directly for Bu Alina? Hello, Bu Susana?
Yes. Okay. Good job. Students can perform well. Good. Um, I just want to ask about how can you manage the process, or they can share the video. How can you do the, for example, formative assessment of speaking process? For example, in pronunciation, maybe they still make some mistakes, yeah, on the process, and then how to train them to perform well, to make their speaking fluently, yeah. How how can you manage it in an effective time? I know that, of course, we have to see one by one, yeah, the students, how they make process until they can perform well. Okay, thank you. Good job, Bu Alina.
Thank you, Bu Susana. Wow. Okay. Well, the process is not simple actually. Well, whether the result is very simple, the description of the recording from my student is very simple, but the process is not simple actually. From the beginning of my class in the 7th grade, I always use the voice note. So I always um, I always use the voice notes to do a presentation, to do the attendance. They don't fill the attendance using Google Form. They record their voice, okay? And I check one by one, okay? In this morning, I teach my 7G grade, and it is the second meeting, and they have already learned about greeting, so they have to greet me in the beginning of the class. Okay, so um, I greet I greet them in the beginning. I greet them first, maybe something like that. Good morning. How are you today? So I give them example how to answer. Okay, the anak-anak bisa menjawab seperti ini ya. Good morning, Ma'am Alina. I am fine, thank you. But I give them other example. Maybe they can use their creativity to answer. Tapi boleh menjawab dengan kreativitas sendiri. Something like that. I use the voice note. So they listen my voice and they record their voice to answer. Some students answer like my example, but some students use their creativity. That's great. They only 7th grader, and it is the second meeting. Wonderful. And every class, every online class, I always use, even though in the ninth grader, I use in the ninth grader too, but it's not very simple ninth grader. So to open my class, I ask them to describe around them, or maybe to tell about their activity at night, maybe something like that. But always I use a voice note to check their speaking. Yes, always in every meeting. And um, those voice note, I use it as apa sebagai bukti presensi, something like that. Yeah. So I check one by one and ayo Mas Restu belum, something like that lah. Okay, using. Nah, this process make my students train or practice their speaking every day, every meeting. So when I ask them to make a short a description about something, describing something, speaking, so they are not shocked, okay? Because they have done it every day. They have done it every meeting. Okay. Of course, it's not simple. It's a long process, but it is successful. Okay. And um, whether only singing greeting songs. If you teach a seventh grader, there is a very popular song of greeting. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you? Something like that. I ask them to sing and to record video, but some students don't want to record the video. They can use voice notes. Okay, so that's the process. And about the knowledge, I gave the material using video YouTube and quizzes to practice the vocabulary, and of course I give them an example. So I record myself describing a pencil case in a video, and I upload in my YouTube channel, and then can watch it. And I record myself very very simple. I train myself to be the seventh grader and record myself to be their example. Okay, through that, and because of that, the result is good, and the student is quite successful to do that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's all, Bu Susana. Is it answering your question?
Thank you. Good.
Thank you, Bu. If you want to see the result of my students, maybe I can share the best and the worst.
I'm so sorry, Bu Alina.
Okay.
Time is almost over. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
No
And
problem.
yeah. And here we actually still have some questions. So
Okay.
Bu Alina can answer it directly in the chat box, or perhaps the audience who has the question can send email to Bu Alina.